Hi and welcome to my channel. So there are a lot of new subscribers compared to the last time I did this. And we'll get into why in a little bit. So first though, I'm gonna reintroduce myself, I guess, in this channel and kind of what I'm doing here. So I'm Kathy. I now live up in Ames, Iowa. I am... I'm a veterinarian and I don't actually see any animals, so I'm a weird one. I am currently working on my PhD and working on writing it and hopefully defending it soon. On this particular channel, I talk about all the things I'm crafting. I have the lovely pleasure of being multi-craftorial. So I do a bunch of crafts. I enjoy doing a bunch of different creative kind of things. My focus for the last couple of years has been mostly knitting, but as seen in my last video, I've been reintroducing some of my other things and I'm going to start talking about them a little bit more. So what you can expect from these videos is basically me talking about what I've been doing, what my plans are, and things that I've bought recently, essentially. And I'm gonna try and kind of keep some things separate. So obviously I said I've done knitting. I've also gotten back into cross stitch. So those two will both be in this video. And I'm also going to throw in some plans for another craft that I'm going to be starting again. So if you are interested in the knitting, stick around right now because I'm going to first go over my knitting stuff. If you're just interested in cross stitch, I will try and put in like a time marker and be like, this is the time where you should skip to. And I think that's it. So the reason why I needed to redo this is because I had a very, very lovely shout out back from Cross Stitch the Globe from Stephanie and Allison. I didn't expect it. I had recently found them here on YouTube. Saw one of their big things and then started watching them and really enjoyed it. So in my last one I was like, hey, I've been watching them. All 4 of the people who watch me, go check them out because they're fun and great to watch. I also shouted out a couple of other channels, but they saw that, and then Stephanie went on a really long thing about people should come and check me out on her channel. And from that, the people who are watching me kind of went up 5 times what it was before. So I thought I'd go ahead and reintroduce and thank you so much for the enjoying and subscribing and watching me. I am almost finished finally going through all of Cross Stitch the Globe's videos. They keep putting out new ones, so it's one of those you're almost caught up and then they put out another 2-hour long one and you're like, oh no, I have 2 more hours to watch. This is both the best and the worst thing because I won't catch up at this rate. But I'm almost caught up with everything. And then, because I guess the way that I tend to watch YouTube is I go and I find someone I like and then I kind of go through all their videos before kind of moving on and finding the next person. And then as they add more videos, I'll watch them intermixed, but usually I'm kind of focused on the next one that I'm really interested in and would like to actually watch. So it's been a slow and steady slog. Once I finish with them, I will find the next person. Probably someone who if people who have subscribed to me have videos, I'm gonna check out your channels next. I just had to finish watching the first one before moving on. So that's a little bit about me. Like I said, if you're interested in the cross stitch, I'll try and put a bookmark, that way you can just skip to it. But otherwise, we're going to start with knitting. So I guess the first thing to talk about is what have I finished since the last time I filmed. So I did finish one thing since the last time I filmed. I finished the Matterhorn Cowl. And this, so by finish, I mean I have finished knitting it. It is not completely finished yet. I still have to do, I still have to block it, but it is finished. So this was knit using pure merino heather, which is 100% merino fine wool. It was really a really nice yarn to work with. I really enjoyed it. And so here is my finished cowl. So happy with it. I have a bunch of cabling, and it will be, once it's blocked, so if you're watching this and you do cross stitch and you don't do knitting, we're gonna go through some terms. So this is basically the raw product. Like, I finished with the needles and I've bound off, which means that you finish the edge here, and now it is almost ready. So one of the things with a lot of knitted products is that you then go through a process of blocking. So blocking is where you get whatever knit thing it is, you submerge it in water, and then you kind of squish out as much water as you can without scrunching it in any way, shape, or form, because you don't want to change the shape. You just want to get it less wet so it takes less time to dry. And then once you've done that, you're going to shape it. So you're going to put it in the shape, the final shape that the product should look like. And this is something that you really can typically only do with more natural stuff. So when you talk about like acrylic yarn, it's a lot harder to block it. You can somewhat, it depends on what it is, right? So if it's just pure 100% acrylic yarn, it's not going to really water block very well. You can heat block it by like passing a iron over it and using that, but that's going to permanently change it because the hot iron, the heat from the iron is actually going to melt those plastic fibers, and that shape that it ends up being in will be the final shape. It's not going to go back and forth. If it has other fibers in it, so like if it's part wool or if it's part something else, it can retain some of those properties of that other fiber. So if it's part wool, it will probably block. It may not block as nicely and as well as 100% wool will, but it will block. And so what blocking does is it kind of gives whatever piece of clothing or knitted thing that you've made, it gives it its shape. It helps the fibers remember what shape it's supposed to be in, or learn what shape it's supposed to be in so you can help it remember. So you don't have to block everything. Your basic scarf, unless there's cables, there's no real reason to block it, so most people don't. But once you start getting into some like more interesting techniques like lace and cables, you really do need to block it, so shape it to the final shape it's going to be, and let it learn that shape. Because with like lace, when you get it off the needles, you'll hold it up and it won't, like, it'll look very blah, right? So lace is supposed to be very holy, and like you have very intricate designs in there, and if you don't block it, the holes don't ever expand to the proper size, and so it'll look like shrunk and not as pretty. On the other hand, cables, which is what this has a ton of, Because you're twisting the yarns and putting them back in top of each other, that makes the stitches tighter together. And so, like you can see here really well actually at the bottom. This is normal knitting, and then I went into cables. And you can see it flares out a ton at the bottom because the actual normal knitting has a larger circumference than my cables do right now. So if you don't block it, you end up with weird things like that. And you really don't want that. You actually want it to be like this, right? So you want it to be full out. So in order to, as they put it, relax the cables, or basically you're going to block it out so that the cables will stretch out and so that they'll be all parallel and nice. So I do have to block this so that it will relax my cables and make the pattern really shine, as well as like making my knitting a little bit more standard. But it's finished knitting, so I'm very happy about that. I really enjoyed working with the yarn. It was a fun project. It was a great work meeting project, which is what I was doing with it. So I have one finished object. I also have three currently projects that I've been actually working on. So I am test knitting 2, and then I have one that is a work project. So at least for my test knits, I tend to pick things that are a little bit more complicated and interesting and neat. It means they're not great knitting projects for work. So I do take my knitting to work. When I am in meeting or in training, I find that it is very comfortable and it helps me stay awake. But like doing some mindless knitting while sitting through a meeting, perfect for me. And my boss is fine with it, so who cares? So I have, like I said, 2 projects on the go. One of them is actually in the stage where I can take it, kind of take it to work now again. But the other one, no, it's a little bit more complicated. So the first thing that I have been first test knit that I've been working on has been the Visby long cardigan. And I'm gonna kind of flash it. So this one is a project where they've asked that we only tease and not actually post too much. So this is my tease. I'm going to tease you with one of the pockets that I have knit for this because I've got part of it knit, but the pockets aren't really going to show you much, and it'll actually give you an idea of what the yarn is going to look like. So maybe there we go. I think I got it. Okay, so you can see here I have some lovely marling. So what I'm doing with that is I am actually holding 2 yarns together. So I was hitting gauge. So gauge, for people who don't know, is where you have specific measurements. So they'll tell you in 4 inches wide and 4 inches tall, you should have like 20 stitches. So each of these columns is a stitch, like 20 stitches by 20 rows. So each V up would be a row. So you knit in rows and you knit X amount of stitches across each row. So they'll tell you 4 inches by 4 inches you should have this many stitches in that and this many rows in that. And then in order that you don't end up with a garment that is really, really big or really, really small, what you're going to do is you will knit kind of a test small piece about that size and check and make sure that your gauge is matching their gauge. If it doesn't match, then you have to kind of adjust your needle sizes. So if you're knitting too loose or too big, you might have to go down needle sizes so that your size will shrink and so that you can hit gauge. Or if it's too small, you might have to go up needle sizes to get bigger needles so that it will meet gauge that way. So when I say I met gauge, that means that when I took my original yarn and I knitted it up in that sample, it was matching the dimensions that it should. But it was thinner than I would like, so it was a little bit more see-through than I wanted it to be. So I looked at that and went, so let's see what happens if I hold another yarn with it. So if you hold two yarns together, that's called marling, and it gives you this like from far away it looks brown. But when you look a little bit closer, you can see that like there's actually two colors playing around in that. So that is marling, and that's what I decided to do with, I have no idea if I'm in focus or not. So that's what I decided to do with this. I knit another test swatch up with still heating gauge. So I was like, okay, I have my plan. I'm going to marl them. And so you can see kind of what the finished fabric will look like. I may be doing other things with it. I may be doing super secret kind of stuff with it. Just because of the design and kind of how I think I'm going to work with it. But that I think is going to be more of a teasable thing and not a I'm going to show it. If it works, I'll let you know. But so I've started this. It's not due till June, I think. So I have some time to work on it. And I will be working on it. But I haven't focused on it as much as my other one because my other one test knit that I've been working on is actually due next week. And hopefully I can make that deadline. If I don't make it, I will be really, really close though. Like I am almost done. So talking about that, the next test knit that I've been working on, which has hit the point where I can take it to work on it, is the Summer Love Cardigan by Conexus Knits, I believe is the name. Anything that I mentioned that I have proper links for, I'll put below. For the test knits, obviously there's no pattern yet because I'm testing the pattern. But I will put the name plus who the designer is. That way you can find it or keep it on your radar if you're interested in knitting these patterns. So this one is the one that I have been working on, and I think last time I was working on the back last time I filmed. So I finished my back and I have now finished the front. And I am super happy with how it turned out. It's looking so good. I am really excited to finish putting this together. So now that I finished the front and the back, I have started on the sleeves. So I am about that far. And I am knitting, I do knit my sleeves two at a time. I have enough projects, and I have enough projects where I have partially abandoned them, and I will eventually get back to them. I promise I will get back to them, but they have been put kind of on hold while I go off and do other things. That I know that if I don't knit them two at a time, I'm gonna get like second sleeve, second sock syndrome, where I will knit one, get bored, and not do the other one, which it's challenging to wear a garment if you only have one sleeve. Who knew? So I do knit my sleeves 2 at a time. That way I don't have that issue because they get knit both at the same time. Therefore, they are both done, and I don't have one completed and not the other one. It also helps me like make sure that I keep them even, because since they're knit both at the same time, they progress at the same time, and so when I do the things, they happen at the same time, and they're not going to end up with one that's like a tinge longer than the other one. They'll both be the same. Anyway, so I've gotten to the sleeves. So this one is really close to being done. I need to finish up the sleeves, which I am going to work on this weekend, and hopefully get pretty close to where they need to be. So work on the sleeves, and then it'll just be kind of finishing touches at that point. I'll put, because it'll need collar and basically sewn up, and that's kind of where I am with that. So Summer Love by Conexus Knits, I believe. What I'm using for this particular sweater is Southampton Valley Yarns. They're mohair silk, so it's 72% kid mohair, 28% mulberry silk, and it's in the colorway 34, which I think is emerald green if you actually look at the name, but it only tells me 34, so 34 it is. Now I am obviously doing some specialty stuff with it, as you can see in the front. So the really thin yarn, which really isn't yarn, that I'm using is, where is it? Ah, there it is. So that is Gutermann 100% silk sewing thread. You can find these at like Joann's or Hobby Lobby. Yeah, so I'm using sewing thread to knit. That has been an interesting experience. Enjoyed it, yes. Could do it without thinking about it, no. Like, I have to pay attention when I'm working with this. And then the final thing that I'm going to use a little bit of is some of this La Jolla yarn in the colorway Into the Woods. So this is going to be, I'm going to use it a little bit in the wrist cuff area, and I'm going to use it for the bind off. So binding off is where you kind of end your stitches. So it's got a I-cord, applied I-cord edge. It's not really a bind off, but an I-cord edge. So an I-cord is, how to explain it? So an I-cord is where you basically knit very small into a circle and you end up with like a cord. You may have seen these, like they have like magic mushrooms that you could make them of with years ago, but basically what you're doing is you knit and then you move everything over and you knit the same thing again so that your yarn basically spirals up. And you're usually knitting over 3 to 4 stitches, so it's a very, very tight spiral, unlike like a hat, which is the same basic principle. It is a circle, but the circle comes to an end at the top, and it's a lot bigger. Anyways, so yeah, I'm going to be using this for that I-cord edge around there and some of the cuffs. So yeah, I'm happy about that. Almost done. And then the last thing that I have been knitting recently is this guy. Come on. Which is, let me find the name of it, because I don't actually have a picture with this pattern. So this was a free pattern that I found. It's the Katrina Rib for IT by Cookie A, or Haiti. And yeah, this was my work knit while the green one was in a non-good space. So kind of a ribbing. So ribbing is this fabric thing where it expands and contracts and you have like ridges and bumps. So going through and doing ribbing on this, it's fun. This is obviously supposed to be a tee. I'm not sure if it will be. It may end up being, I don't know. I need to, so you do the body first anyways, and then you go into the arms. So once I've got the body knit, I will have a better idea on if I'm going to keep it as a tee or if I might like change it more to like a 3/4 length. It's also a possibility. But I have a pretty good start on it. I am just now starting to put things on hold. So when you put a stitch on hold, that means that you kind of pull it off your needles without binding it off, so that you can come back and knit it later. So I've just started putting some stitches on hold. So I need to get the other sleeve done and then we can work on the body on this one. So that'll be fun. And I'm using, oh, there it is. Knitology Wisp by Knit Crate in the color Rainfall. I like the color so far. The yarn has been nice to work with. We'll see how it wears in a couple of months, maybe. Well, hopefully not a couple of months. Hopefully I finish this a little bit faster than that, but we shall see. So that is my current works in progress. I am going to talk briefly a little bit about like the next things that I'm planning on doing. So one of the things that I haven't worked on lately, but I did start a while back and I plan on heading back toward, is actually a pair of socks. So I've been trying to keep like one pair of socks on my needles, and I have my pair of socks on my needles. These socks, I at first didn't, so I'm knitting, which ones am I knitting? I am knitting the Avena socks by Natalia Vasilieva. Vasilieva? I don't know. I'm assuming that's how it, from the 52 Weeks of Socks by Lina. And I know when I first started this one, the pattern in the leg got me a little bit confused, and so I ended up having to go back and redo it because I was doing it wrong. And I saw it and went, that doesn't look like the picture. Something went wrong somewhere. So, yeah, went back, figured it out, and now I'm working on it. So I'm knitting these up on, like one, I don't know, whatever it calls for in the pattern. I haven't changed any of that. I just am using a different yarn. So I'm using Premium Yarn by Knit and Crochet, which is the yarn brand of Joanne's. I don't know if they have any of these anymore. I found them one time and then I haven't seen them since. But this was a hand-dyed sock yarn product. So it's superwash merino wool with some polyamide in the color Royal. And if you want, you can see this is what a ball looks like. I feel like, so yeah, it's really hard to get a good color right now. Yeah, so it's purple and blue, and because of where the sun is going down, It's not the greatest for getting true colors, but I think you can tell, like with the socks, it's almost like a periwinkle blue with like areas that are lighter and darker. Best way to describe that. So I plan on getting back into these. That's my goal in this next couple of months. Next month, hopefully, is to at least get a couple of rows done on this, because I do want to obviously get on to the rest of the socks. I have this is week 2 out of 52 weeks of socks, so I have a couple more to go. So that was my first plan. My second plan is a new work kind in it, so I plan on actually doing the Lighthouse beanie by Veronika Lindberg. So this is from her book. I don't know if she has this as a single pattern anywhere, but I am planning on using up some scrap yarn that I have. So I have more of the Southampton Valley yarns in the colorway 27. And I'm going to hold it together with some Sunday yarn from the Woolery in the colorway, what is this? I think it's 8521. So I'm sure it has another name somewhere, but it's like a olive green kind of color. With more of a teal color. Holding that together, I think will create a really, it does create a really neat looking product. Give me a second. I have a sweater where I actually held these two together, which will give you an idea of what color it will end up being. So, this sweater I actually knit last year. And I held both of those yarns together, and you can see it ends up being a very teal color, but it's, if you look real close, you get to see the like marling effect that I talked about before, where you see the light popping out in and out from the like darker color, and it's gorgeous and lovely, and I would love to have a hat with it. This is one of my favorite sweaters. I wear it fairly frequently. So that is that. And then I have one more project that I am planning on knitting soon. And that is the Easy V sweater by Caitlin Hunter. And I do have all the yarn for it here. It's gonna be that color, that color, and this, and this, and we're gonna use, this is my background color. So it is, I think I have the tags here. Yes, I do. Good. I was worried I didn't have the yarn tags anymore, so I couldn't tell you exactly what I'm using. But I do. So I have some Marilyn Tosh Gigi Love Speckles for it. That is not it. Some Weighted Blanket by Marilyn Tosh. Mountain Colors Beautiful Hand Painted Yarns in Harmony Brook, and Malabrigo's Rios in Niebla. So those are the colors that I have here that I'm going to be holding, or that I'm going to be using for this particular sweater. And so this is kind of my color palette, with this one being the background and then these three being my contrast stripes against this guy. So we'll see how it turns out, but I am pretty excited about it. I actually got these yarns in New Orleans before I moved, so This was my present to myself for getting a job. So yeah, the Easy V by Caitlin Hunter. It'll be fun. So that is all of my works in progress and all of my current knitting things. So the last section is going to be some haul. So in the month since we last talked, I have gotten a couple of things. There was a Fiber Fest that happened near me, and I went to my first Fiber Fest. It was fun and a new experience. So they had it down south. Not that far down south, but further down. And it was actually kind of interesting driving down there, because as I drove down, I kept seeing signs, and they're like, John Wayne, this way, John Wayne's birthplace, this way. So apparently the town where this Fiber Fest was in is where John Wayne was born. And they have a museum to him and everything. Didn't know that. Didn't know that John Wayne was born in Iowa. Things you didn't know. But now that I know, at some point I'm gonna have to go back there. They also apparently have a number of covered bridges there, so I'm gonna be taking my camera and taking pictures. So we'll do a camera John Wayne, figure out what this John Wayne thing is, trip to that town, because it's only like an hour and a half away, so why not? Not anytime soon, but probably in the summer. Anyways, so they were having a Fiber Fest at the local middle school, I think is where they ended up. But basically what a yarn or fiber festival is you have a number of vendors who come for a weekend usually, and people go and buy yarn and other things. So at this particular one, they had a number of people there. They had the Spinning and Weaving Guild of Des Moines. I might be adding more crafts to my repertoire, and therefore may end up trying that out at some point. But that's future, not current. So there was that, which was really neat. They had people actually spinning there and weaving. They had a number of people who were selling very, very beautiful yarn, which I bought some of, and that is in my haul. They had a number of people who were actually selling like wool, different types of wool, right? So, we're going to go down a slight tangent for all you cross-stitch folks. So, yarn, how this happens. So you have a fiber producing animal. A lot of times it's a sheep. But you can also get yarn and fiber from things like alpacas. People have done llamas. Like anything that has some type of hair, you can technically make yarn from. Not always the nicest or best yarn, but you can technically make yarn from it. So some of the common types of animals that you will see yarn made from will be like sheep, goats, certain types of goats, right? So cashmere is actually made using goat hair. Alpacas are pretty common, and rabbits, actually, Angora rabbits. So those are kind of your four most common fiber producing animals, but you can also have camel. I've seen camel fiber being sold before. In terms of non-fiber producing animals, you can also get fibers from plants, right? So you have cotton, which is a very common one. You'll have linen, which is from flax plants. And then you have kind of an in-between one, right? So you can also have silk. So silk's produced by actually insects, right? Silkworms. And so not quite animal, not quite plant kind of thing. Like, it's an insect, so technically if you're going through like all of your kingdoms, it's technically an animal, but most people don't consider it an animal. Weird things. And it doesn't really behave like fiber from an animal does. It behaves very differently. Anyways, long tangent to say they had some people there who raised different types of animals. So there was a guy there who has a number of alpacas, and he was selling their fiber. There were some people who had sheep who were selling their fiber. Some people were selling both the fiber and yarn that they had spun from the animals that they have that they work with. So that was really neat. And then there were people who were selling like hand-dyed stuff or natural dyed stuff in a variety of different bases, right? So some people were selling wool, some people were selling like wool and linen and cotton and silk and like combinations of the various different things. So got to see and touch all kinds of yarn. And then finally there was someone there who had 3 baby goats, and they were stinking cute. And she was letting anyone who was there who came, paid the $3 entrance fee, you could go and you could hold the baby goats and pet the baby goats, and they were so cute. You can tell I like the baby goats. Anyways, so I bought a couple of things while I was there. I did try and take a little bit of footage, and I'll try and put that here. And now I'm gonna walk you through some of the things that I bought. I did buy some. I bought some. So one of the first things that I bought while there was this yarn. So I got 2 of these, and it's a faded neutral, but it has these really nice pops of like gold and teal and red. So this is actually a yak single fingering. So it's mostly superwash merino wool, but it's also got some silk and some yak in it. And these are in the colorway Grange by Cato Yarn Company. So I got these, and I'm planning on making some type of garment with them, because I got 2 of them. So I have 240 grams. I figure I can make at least a top. I can at least make like a t-shirt. I would like to make a little bit, I don't know. I'll have to think about this. This may end up being like a vest or something like that. I don't know. I just knew that they were gorgeous and super, super soft. These are really soft yarns. So that was my first thing that I got. The next thing that I got was these guys. So I have here some 2 separately hand-dyed things by the same person. So one of them is a fine wool from a Corriedale, which is a breed of sheep, and baby alpaca, and it's in the colorway Iris Garden. And this is a lace weight, 2-ply lace weight, which is a really gorgeous color yarn. And I think, so I have a number of lace shawl patterns, and I think this is going to end up being one of those, because it's really pretty, and I think it would be a gorgeous shawl. The other thing that I got from her was this flax linen in the color Dusty Purple. I don't know yet what I'm gonna do with it. It is very, very thin and very fine. I'm gonna have to think about it. I got it because it is a gorgeous color. I really, really, really like the color. And I haven't really worked a ton with flax or linen, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'm gonna knit with it or if it'll end up being something else, because it is really, really fine. So it's not gonna be like a great warm thing, but it could potentially be like a cover up kind of thing, like a tank that you put on, like a light decorative tank that you would put on something underneath. I don't know. We'll figure that out. And I got some stitch stoppers. So stitch stoppers are what you put on the ends of needles so that you don't lose your stitches. So when you're finished knitting for a little while and like you're not completely finished with the piece, you typically want something on the end of your needle so that the stitches don't slip off and you lose all of the work that you did. So while I was there, there was a woman who was selling a number of them, and she had some really cute octopus ones. So we went with the octopus because I have some foxes, I have some kitties, and now I have some octopi, which is wonderful. And then the final thing that I really got there was I got a number of these. So this is merino, angora, and silk. Really, I think there's about 200 yards. Yeah. So the woman who was selling it was like, I wanted a sport weight, and then the mill gave me this back, which is like technically a sport weight. So let me back up real fast. So weights of yarn mean like kind of what size it is and how heavy it is and like what you should actually knit with it. So I've actually shown you a number of different weights here. So this is a fingering weight, and this is supposed to be a sport closer to like a lace to a fingering weight. So weights get determined by how long you have and how much it weighs, right? So if it is thicker, right, it's going to weigh more, but you're going to have less yardage per the same weight, right? So it'll knit up faster, and it'll be nice and bulky and squishy. But if you're making something that you don't need that for, you want something lighter. So there's a number of different weights. You can go from lace up to like super bulky. If you're interested in it more than like this really quick explanation, let me know in the comments and I'll go ahead and try and incorporate that into the next one. We'll talk a little bit about it. But needless to say, this woman expected it to be a different weight, and so she was selling them for like just to basically make back the money that she had spent on making them. So I got a number of those from her, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with them yet, but I might try and actually dye some of these since they're all like this cream color. I don't particularly like cream with me and my skin. Not that this light is helping at all in terms of seeing anything real great, because yeah, I'm getting all of the sun on me right now. But I am very light skinned, and so like a really light sweater kind of just washes me out. So I might try and dye these to get it to be like a color that I'm more interested in. But that was the last thing that I bought. So that was my haul for the last month or so. And that's my knitting. I'm going to do a quick project in here in between my knitting and my cross stitch in my plan section that I haven't started yet, but I am going to start hopefully in the next month. Like, that's the goal. The goal is to at least get one thing in on this month. And I think it fits in here pretty well because this is almost like halfway between cross stitch and knitting. I'm using yarn, but I'm using a needle to make designs with the yarn. So I'm considering it a middle ground. So I'm actually going to do a pattern out of this book of Swedish weaving. I'm doing this one right here, and I'm actually going to do the brown color as well. So I'm going to use some monk's cloth and some brown yarn, and we're going to at least get started on the Afghan. I've done one other Afghan. If you go back a number of videos, you'll be able to find it. I don't have too many videos up at this point. It's not that far back. But I do talk about like finishing the other one that I had started, and it took a couple of years to finish it up. This one will probably take a couple of years too. But yes, that is a plans. I have the fabric. I have the prepared fabric, so I go through and wash it before I start anything. So I have the prepared fabric. I have the yarn over there, and I have the pattern. So all it needs for me to do is actually get off my butt and do it. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so now that that is done, we're going to move on to cross stitch. So like I said like I said earlier at the beginning of this, I had recently gotten into watching cross stitch Flosstube actually, and Stephanie from Cross Stitch the Globe sucked me in, and I saw many pretty things and immediately was like, oh, I need to do this. So first things first, I need to finish up some of the stuff that I've been working on, and then like there's a whole world that I don't know about, and therefore I must get into this. So that being said, for you cross stitchers, I have some things, if you watch Flosstube, that you'll know about. So I do have an FFO, so a fully finished object, which means that I have finished stitching, and then I have finished putting the stitching in the thing that it needs to be in, which was important because it's being given to my brother and his soon-to-be wife in about a week. You are not going to see this hopefully until after that, because I am filming this now, but probably not going to edit it until after the wedding. So you're going to see the final product after it has been given to them. So if they by some chance manage to find my channel before the wedding, which is very unlikely, they won't see their final product yet. So let me show you what it looks like. Oh, look at it. It's so pretty. I'm really happy with it. So I think I have the pattern in the last video, but I will copy the pattern again. I don't know who it's by. I bought this a couple of years ago. I have made this particular pattern, how many times? 2, 4, 6 times? So I've done this pattern 6 times. So for all of my siblings, all 2 of my siblings who have been married, and then my first cousins who get married, I've been cross-stitching this. And so I do modify the pattern a little bit in that I do go ahead and backstitch everything. So with the colors that I chose, like, because it asks for a light and a dark, and then supposedly it'll show up really nicely on white, etc. Mine, I don't know how well it really does show up on white. But if you had like a darker fabric, it would pop a little bit more. But I ended up doing this on an opalescent fabric, and I have no idea if you guys can see the glitter on this or not. But yes, the fabric is opalescent, so it does glitter a little bit. And then I go ahead and I modify the pattern and I backstitch everything. So I backstitch around all of the light, and I do actually all of the dark, because it just feels wrong if you don't. So I know last time I started the backstitching and I still had some more cross stitching to do. I finished the cross stitching, I finished the backstitching, I have got it in a frame. This is one that I did frame myself. I haven't ever gotten something framed professionally yet, so I don't know. Maybe I will one day, but not today, not anytime soon. But yes, I have a fully finished object. It is done. It is ready to go. I am very happy with it. It's perfect. Good wedding gift. They'll enjoy it. Even if they don't enjoy it, they'll enjoy it. So that is my one and only fully finished object. Now, I do have one finished object. And I'm really happy with it. Also a several year project, but it's so pretty. So here's my finished object. Just finished this within like the last week and a half. Yeah, so last time I showed this on here, I think I might have done this. So I had gotten this done. I know I had gotten that done, and I think this was scrolled up on the frame, and I had started on this part. But yeah, I finished it. I have finished it now. Now I need to figure out what to do with it. I'm thinking it's gonna get turned into a pillow. I don't really want to frame it. I have a number of things already framed. At some point I will probably eventually have something like a gallery wall where it'll just be all kinds of different things all together, all on a wall, things that I have made and done. But I don't really want to do that for this. So I think I'm gonna make it a pillow. But that's going to involve some thinking and work, and not anything I'm going to be doing anytime soon. So this is the pattern, or this is the finished product. I'm really happy with it. I did really enjoy doing it. It's a footprints kit by Vasilieva, number, I don't remember the number. It has a specific number. I posted this on a Facebook Facebook cross stitch group. And I know I've rattled off the actual number several times there. It will be in the description below. But I think when I got this, it was like a Walmart purchase. I don't know if you could still find it at Walmart. I know you can find some cross-stitch kits still there. But I don't know if this particular one is still there. But yeah, finished object. I have a finished object and a fully finished object. So proud of me for this week. Or this month. So, like I said, I got inspired to go back into cross stitch. So, because I got inspired to go back, that meant that I had some projects that had already been started that I hadn't been working on. So now that I have finished all of my finished stuff, I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of my works in progress, or my whips. So my first whip is a project that I started years ago. yeah, I think I was still in vet school when I started this project. So, talking at least 6 years, if not older. So my first project that I've been working on is World Map. Also a kit, so I have a number of kits. It's this one. So this, I don't know how well this is showing up. Not great, not horrible. So this is the World Map by Plaid Busilla. It's a stamped cross-stitch kit. And like I said, I started work on this a while back. It's actually a really big one. So it's technically 8 count stamped. So it's, the fabric that it's on is not really your typical cross-stitch fabric, right? So it doesn't have really nice X's. Instead, they took the pattern, they stamped it on a piece of fabric, and then you make the crosses on based on the stamps, not on the holes that you see in the fabric. So this 8 count's pretty big. So that's 8 stitches per inch. And I think the final size is supposed to be 19 inches by 24 inches. And yeah, it's 19 inches by 24 inches. So I still got a needle on it, and it's in the frame, and I am not sorry about that at all. I'm going to be a horrible floss tuber in that I'm not taking anything off the frame because that's too much work. So I started, let's see, I finished out one color since the last time. So this brown color, I have gone through and done all of the brown color on this pattern, and now I have started my second color on it. So when I cross stitch, I tend to go through and kind of try and complete each color. Depending on what I'm cross stitching and how I'm doing it, it'll change. I tend to do each section though, kind of color blocking. And then sometimes I'll go ahead and do it as like the entire thing and just do it. Typically, if it has fewer and is not too complicated. The more complicated it gets, the more likely I am to do some color switching, but I do tend to do one color before switching to another color. That being said, I have finished one color and now am in the process of doing the next color. I think next time I do this, I really need to do it in the morning. Afternoon is just giving me way too much glare. So I've been working on this so far and it's turning out pretty good. Pretty happy with it. I'm not sure how much progress I will make. I also do mine based on, I like paper patterns much better than PDFs. I'm weird, I know. But I don't use any type of program to keep track of it. I don't know if I ever will. But because I am using papers, I have no idea how many stitches I've done. I have no idea what percentage I've done with. I've done all of one color and I am now working on the next color. So there's, and I don't know how many colors there are in here. It doesn't say on this thing. I think there's probably like 13 or 14 different colors. So, maybe an eighth. We'll guess an eighth. Because the first 2 colors that I'm doing are going to be like the major colors. 2 of the major colors. So maybe an eighth. I don't know. But yeah, I started that. I'm working on it. It should, one of my goals to get done. So that brings me to my next project. So this one was kind of a whim start. So I'm doing a whim start, but it's going to be a gift. So I have this book that I got at one point, probably from Hobby Lobby. And on it you can see they have a bunch of different like bookmarks that you can make that are like really cute, hopefully fast, cross-stitch patterns. So I started one of those. So I'm doing one of the coffee ones. I'm thinking I'm going to be doing 2 of the coffee ones. One for my mom, one for my sister. So these will be like birthday, maybe Mother's Day gifts. We'll see. I haven't gotten that far in them anyways. So you can see I just got the bottom border. I've started the border on these guys. I'm ignoring the instructions. I'm not giving them as much room as they need because literally the instructions are like, oh yeah, once you finish, you need to do it off of, they need to be, what, 4 inches wide, and no, they wanted it to be like 6 by 11. And then they're like in the instructions, and then you go ahead and you trim on the side so that there's 3 spots on the bottom and 3 spots on the side, or 3 rows? 3 rows, and then you fray the edges anyways. And I was like, why would I go ahead and get a piece of cloth that's bigger than the area that I know that I'm going to end up fraying, when you just told me like I would have to cut it off and basically waste it? That makes no sense. I'm going to go ahead and like start with the dimensions that it's going to be. So I did start it near the edge because that it's getting frayed. It'll be fine. And then I'll probably do like what I've done with other ones, where take a white thread and essentially around the edges of it, because the cross stitch, like the actual X's will help, like in terms of fraying. It'll fray up to there and it really won't go past there. But if you go ahead and you do like a back stitch around the edges with like a white thread, it'll basically prevent it from fraying really at all. I've done that with some Swedish weaving projects that I did that were placemats where you frayed the edges, but excuse me, before you frayed the edges you did backstitch around all of the intersections that you wanted. You basically did like a row of X's and did backstitch around it. That way it wouldn't fray anymore, and so you would keep your dimensions, and it does work really well. I've had no fraying with those. Rephrase. I have had no unintentional fraying with those. So yeah, quick project that I started. Hopefully they'll be done by the next time we talk. Or at least one of them will be done. Maybe not both of them, but at least one of them should be done. So that is my first project. My next project that I started is one that watching Cross Stitch the Globe, Stephanie mentioned that there was a Mirabilia leap day sale, right? So I saw that one. Oh, I need to join that because I want to do one of those. Yeah, I didn't realize how big they were. They're big. We can do it. We'll be fine. So I started and I joined, and I have a project. So the project that I decided to do for that particular sale is this one. So this is Stargazer by Nora Corbett from Mirabilia, and I think she is really gorgeous, but I did not like the background. So I was like, she's a stargazer, right? So, like, stars technically you can see them during the day, but realistically you only can really see stars at night. So it's like, she needs to be on a dark background. So I bought my first piece of really nice, like, cross-stitch fabric. I will have to actually tell you what the actual dimensions are because I don't remember. It's probably like a fat quarter or something like that. But I did start her, and you can see I haven't done too much. Mostly because I have to, this is some of the smallest fabric that I've worked with to date. And it's dark, and it does make it more challenging to do the crosses with. So I do try and do this actually like when I have decent light. Natural light coming in helps a lot in being able to find the X's on this. But I am pretty happy. Obviously I have started, so I got 4 years to finish this one. We'll see how long it takes. But while I was doing this, I also started another one at the same time. I don't remember what the name of the fabric is. So the fabric is from Jackson Fabric Arts. It's the organic hemp cloth. I will put the actual color that I'm using in the description below. It's really, like I said, it's a really dark fabric, but it is gorgeous, and I think it is it's going to be a really good, like, night sky. Which is what I wanted. I wanted a really dark color so that it would kind of mimic night. This might prove a little bit challenging in certain areas of the pattern. So, like, with the back of her skirt there, it's really dark and like a slate color. I'm not sure how well that will contrast with the actual fabric. I do have, though, a couple of sections of that I have a couple of sections where that exists, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to see kind of how well it pops as I start it out, and then I might end up doing, like, holding one lighter color and seeing if that will make a really good defined edge if it doesn't pop properly on the background. But that is a future problem, not a current problem. Right now all of the colors are working out fine. So I said that I started 2 projects, 2 memorabilias. Yes I did. I started 2. Having not done any of them ever before. And while that one is more challenging just because of the fabric, this one doesn't have that problem, and so I've gotten a good bit done. Not a giant amount, but I have gotten a lot more on this one done than on the other one. So the other project that I started working on is Ophelia by Mirabilia. So, yes. Poor Hamlet's engaged, who went mad. So they did hers on green, and I didn't like the green, so obviously I changed the background. And then I did something that, like, you're supposed to give yourself 2 to 3 inches. I didn't do that. Because the piece of fabric that I have is somewhat small. I'm also not planning on framing this. I'm hopefully going to figure out, see about possibly making, like, a project bag out of it. But also not my problem right now. My problem right now is just doing it. We will worry about all the other stuff in the future and figuring out what to do with it. So with that being said, here is what I've gotten done on that one. So in terms of the fabric, this is something that someone was unloading on Facebook. I'm not entirely sure what it was. They said it was a 32 count piece of fabric, and it might be, but I don't know. when you compare the two of these together, I'm like, because these two are supposed to be both be 32 count. And I feel like this one is a lot finer than this one. So I'm not sure which one is truly 32 count. If I actually took a ruler. There we go. Words. If I took a ruler, I might be able to actually figure it out, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to actually figure out what it is. This is supposedly a 32 count. So I treated it like a 32 count. I did have to frog here, so this line, I had started out actually giving myself a little bit more room here. I had given myself like an inch on that side. And then as I was doing it, I was like, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough room. I don't think I'm going to get all the way over and be safe on this side. So I went through and I did guesstimating math. And I got over and was like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I went through and I frogged everything, and then I transported it over about half an inch, so that it was here. It is, I don't think I'm quite at the edge yet, but I'm pretty close to the edge over here on this side. So it is wide enough. The stitching area will be fine. Like I said, I'm not going to have great margins on the sides, top or bottom. Like here, I probably have maybe an inch, like 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And on this side, I'm probably going to have about an inch, and I'll probably have an inch on the top and the bottom. So not great margins, but I'm also not planning on framing this. This is going to be an experiment one. Anyways, that long rambling thing to say, this is the blah, blah, blah. This is the progress that I have made on this project. Yeah, so you can see I've got a good bit of the frame done. At least the bottom half of the frame done on here. I've started a bunch of the green leaf kind of thing, so this corner's got a good chunk done. It's got a good chunk here and here. I'm planning on starting actually throwing in some of the white, because I think that'll be fun, and I want to play with the white now. I don't want to just do the greens. So yeah, that's where that is. Happy, enjoy it. This one is actually a really addicting stitch. You get started on it and you're like, ooh, I just want to put in like another strand more and another strand more, and oh, look at that, I've gotten that far. Oops. I need to work on something else. So that being said, I have one more work in progress. So my final work in progress that I just started is from this book called Bewitching Cross Stitch by Joan Elliot. And I'm actually doing one of the series that's on the front. So you can't actually see the one that I'm doing on here, but let's check and see if it has it. Yeah, they do have it. So I'm doing the dragon here. Yeah, so I'm making this dragon. And the reason why I'm doing this dragon is because, yeah, my intro drug to cross stitch to the world, mentioned that there was a Year of the Dragon sale going on. She's also the one who told me about the Mirabilia sale, so like all of this can be blamed on her. Thank you, Stephanie, and also thank you, Stephanie. So I saw that and was like, oh, it's the Year of the Dragon. I really should do that this year. I have it's like I had this book in my stash. So I should like actually do something from it. I know I have the threads for one of the other projects in here, but it wasn't the dragon one. So I was like, okay, we'll do the dragon one. And I didn't want it to be too big because I have a number of different projects and I didn't want it to be something too huge that I was going to have to be working on all year. I'm hoping to, like, I want to finish this year. And actually with the progress that I've made, hopefully within the next month I'll have finished at least this one. I have been enjoying it though, so I might be doing a series here, so I might be finishing up the other 3 in the series. So the castle, the unicorn, and the owl to go with my little dragon. And that's mostly because I have something that I've done a little experiment with. And hopefully I will eventually have like a video on like my process on how I did it. But if you don't want to wait till the video to show up, because that may never show up. So what I did is I saw how small it was and was like, wait a second, I think I have something. I think I have something that will work perfect for this. Let me see if that size pattern actually fits with what I think it will fit with. So I went and I found it and I counted out the stitches and was like, oh, that's perfect. Because it's like a 50 wide by 50 tall piece. So a nice square piece. And I had picked up some things from Michael's a while back when they were having sales and trying to get rid of things. And one of the things that I picked up was a couple of 2 packs of these guys. So it's Ada that has been like pre-stretched on like a canvas thing. So it doesn't require any framing. Literally just requires you stitching on it. And it's totally ready. And I was like, perfect, it'll fit. Now, the only problem is I don't want to do it on white. I've recently found that I don't. White is fine, but it's not the most fun or exciting thing. And having seen all of the pretty stuff, thank you, Stephanie, that people have in the cross-stitch world, white is not necessarily my favorite or what I necessarily really want to stitch a bunch of my stuff on. And especially something like this where I knew that it was going to be, like, it wasn't necessarily going to take up the entire thing and there was going to be some space, right? So that led me to a dilemma. It was like, how can I change the color of this? I obviously can't dunk it and dye it like in a pot because there's wood. It's stretched on wood. It's not, that is not a good idea. So I can't do it that way. I don't really want to do anything that might damage my threads. So what can we do? So we did Google search. And when I did Google search said that you could actually watercolor. So you can watercolor on fabric. And I was like, huh, interesting. And then it goes, don't get this wet afterwards because it will wash out because it's watercolor. And I was like, well, it's watercolor, obviously. But I have a number of watercolor supplies because I do watercolor. I haven't shown anything. It's been a while since I've shown the last thing that I did some watercolor and calligraphy with, but I do enjoy watercolor backgrounds and stuff that I've done before. So I've done a bunch of that with some of my calligraphy art. If you're more interested in that, I have some like Instagram reels on my Instagram page. It's KN Turnbull 2. If you're looking for me there, or Turnbull's Twisted, whatever the name of this channel is, that's the secondary account. So that secondary account, if you can't if you can't find my first name, follow the account that's the same as this YouTube channel, and then look for friends or accounts that one follows, and you'll find me there. Anyways, side tangent. Back to the real thing. So I've watercolored before. I have a bunch of watercoloring supplies. It's like, this is a great time for me to experiment. Like, I have these things, I haven't touched them. It's been years since I have got them. There's this sal going on. I would like to join this sal. Which reminds me, I need to take a picture and then, like, tag it on Instagram so that, like, people know that I'm participating in the sal. Anyways, back to it. It's like, I can do this. We'll see how this works. I have them, might as well try it out. So, all that said, I did it. I took watercolors and I painted on the canvas, as you can see. So I went through and was like, let's play around with this. So I used some of the colors that would be in the design and did some watercolor on it. I actually have some glittery watercolor paints too and added those to it, and it actually shows up. I was really surprised. So I don't know if you can see it, but like that green sparkles. And you can also see like some sparkle in the blue and some of the purple. Yeah. So the green, the purple, and the blue all have some sparkly bits. I think I also have some in like the pink in certain areas. So there's like little areas where it actually does glitter because I used glittery watercolor for it. So I painted it, was like, we'll see what happens. It worked, obviously. I started cross-stitching it on it today. So I am really happy with how it worked out. The cross-stitch part is actually it's been very fun to do. So I started the dragon, as you can see right there. I've got several colors in. I will likely be putting more colors in later today. We are going to do some slight edits to it because this technically calls for 2 Conexus and a bunch of beads, and I'm going to do it different. So I'm not buying the correct Conexus for this. I have some glittery gold stuff that will work, and then I went to Hobby Lobby and I actually got some DMC satin and some of their Artiste metallic floss, and I'm going to combine those to try and mimic the other one. And then likewise, I bought Hobby Lobby size 11 seed beads in pearl to do the beading on that. I'm not actually getting the Millhills for this because this is a side project, and yeah, I'm not going to spend a ton of money on it. So that is my final project that I have make progress, like that I have actually worked on. There are a number of other cross-stitch things that I picked up that I started a while back, a good while back. And I'm probably going to pick up some of them in the coming months. So you'll start to see them kind of trickle back in. But that was everything that I've touched in the last month. So that's kind of how I'm planning on doing this. At the end of the year. Yeah. Like, also some of my stuff isn't here. Like, some of my craft stuff and other things are in North Carolina because as I mentioned, well, because I moved recently, I was in Louisiana, I moved up here. I moved in January. When I was moving over Christmas, I went to my parents' house, and I actually took a carload of stuff there so that we wouldn't have to move it later on in January. Like stuff that I had that I wanted to keep, but I didn't need immediately when I got here. So I have a bunch of stuff in North Carolina. And then obviously, like, it's my parents' house, so I have a number of things that kind of eventually needs to get moved out of my parents' house. Moved out of my parents' house, moved here. Eventually I've got to get my own house, I guess. Anyways, so yeah, all of my craft stuff isn't here, so I'm not going to plan on doing any type of like whip raids or like things that I have started out until after I've managed to move more of my stuff back. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, when I go home, I might find that I have projects that I didn't realize that I had moved already. Anyways, needless to say, as I touch things, I'll add them into these videos. Otherwise, I will eventually show them. It'll probably be at some time when I go, let's actually show everyone all of the things that I am working on. And those videos I probably will split up, because I think this one's going to be a pretty long video. I've been talking for a while. Anyways, back to this. So now let's talk about plans of things that I plan on cross-stitching. So I have a number of things that I have mostly kitted up, and I'm planning on starting within like the next month. So I'm gonna start out here. Let me organize this a little bit. Okay. So, in terms of plans, I have a whole stack of things that I plan on starting. And probably that will expand as the month progresses, but as of right now, I have a whole stack here of things that I plan on starting fairly soon. Some of these, I have the fabric, some of it is, I need to figure out what fabric I'm going to use on it. And yeah, but I'm going to get started on these soon. Some of these need some other things done. But let's start out with one of the things that I have everything for, and I have the fabric for, and so should be starting soon. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to do this one. So it's called Day Surrendering Tonight by Dyan, Allaire. It's a full coverage piece, and it will be the first full coverage piece that I do. I am slightly intimidated, but really excited to start it. It's going to be a big one. 17.5 wide by 14 high. It's on 14 count Ada and is gorgeous, and I really like it, and I am excited to get started on it. I have the Ada, I have all the floss because it just called for, I think, DMC floss. Yeah, it just called for a bunch of DMC floss, so I got all of that, and it's ready to go. Depending on how this goes, I might... So they have pictures of some of the other stuff I think that the same person did, or at least stuff that is from the same company, and some of them are really pretty. So depending on how I enjoy this one, I might eventually start like looking for some of these other ones and seeing about starting them. But first really big full coverage. Plan on starting it this month. I have everything for it. It should get started. Next plans. So I got this recently. So since I got introduced to memorabilia, I was looking at some of them and was like, those prices, like, I like them, but like, who else does things that are in somewhat similar styles that I would be interested in doing? And when I did that, I found that there was Lavender and Lace and Butternut Road and a couple of other designers that were really similar. And finding those, I found a number of Lavender and Lace and Butternut Road that I really, really liked. And so I am going to do them. And this is actually the first one that I was really, really interested in. So this is designed from Butternut Road, called Once Upon a Time by Marilyn Leavitt-Imblum. And this is what it looks like. Isn't she pretty? I don't know if you can tell, but red is my favorite color. And so like she is red and there's a castle and it looks like a fairy tale and I love it. So that is one of my plans. I'm going to start that one soon as well. I think I have pretty much all of the floss for it. I just need to figure out what fabric I'm going to do it on. This one I might actually use like a brown-ish color, but I need to figure out fabric, essentially. Once I figure out fabric, that will be started. The next set of 4 that I'm going to start is the Celtic ladies. So same designer, Marilyn Leavitt-Imblum. And she did Celtic Spring, Celtic Summer, Celtic Winter, and Celtic Autumn. And so this is what they look like. So that is Spring, Summer, Winter, and Autumn. So these are all very gorgeous, and I'm going to edit them. So I saw all 4 of these and I was like, oh, that's perfect. I really want to do these. And then I looked at them more and I was like, I don't want to do them all as 4 separate pieces. I want to do them all as one piece. Yes, I want to do them as one piece. And so I am going to do them as one piece. But not only am I going to do them as one piece, but I'm planning on actually changing things. Yeah. So let's see if I can pull these out right. Right, so you can see that 2 of them face to the left and 2 of them face to the right, which is perfect. I need 2 and 2, and I kind of want all 4 of the girls facing each other. So I'm not going to actually change the directions that the girls are facing. I am, however, going to change where the words are. So I want actually all the words to be in the center, so I'm going to have to do some recharting on this. So that like spring, summer, autumn, and winter are all in the center instead of having tops and tops. So I'm going to have to change that. And in addition to changing that, I'm planning on editing kind of the, so that pattern's going to stay the same, but I'm planning on actually editing and adding a border around everything. yeah. This is going to be... I have the fabric. It's just some of the other stuff that I don't have. So I have the fabric and I have most of the DMC. Switching up, I'm planning on actually dyeing that myself. We're going to try dyeing myself. Dyeing some white floss myself. I got like 6 strands, so that should be more than enough. Or sorry, 6 skeins. More than enough. But I'm going to do my own particular color dye for it because of how I want it. Because I want all 4 of these colors to show up. And like winter is predominantly white, so that can stay that. But like I need the green from summer, I kind of need the gold from autumn, and the purple from spring. So I need to do some dyeing. It's going to be a fun adventure. This might not get started this month, but I definitely want to at least get the floss dyed this month. That way it's ready to go. And then I did get a really big piece of cloth, and I need to measure it again. I need to measure it and see if it will be the right size for all of these gals to put it all on the same one. But yeah, that's my plan for these. It's going to be a giant piece. So much fun, but yes, that is my plan. In addition to the seasons, Marilyn Leavitt-Imblum also did a Celtic Yule or Celtic Noel version, and I have that, and I'm going to do that as well. I think I have the cloth that I want to do it for. I might also be doing kind of 2 versions of this. We'll see. We'll get it done with the first one, and then we'll try and see if the second one is a go or not. But yeah, plan winter Christmas plans. That'll be fun. And then the final thing that I have plans for is this one. So this is a Bella Filipina cross-stitch design, and it's Olivia the Forest Witch. And I thought she was really pretty, and she has an owl, and therefore I wanted to stitch her. So yeah, I have this. I have most of the floss for it, so that one should get started once I figure out what fabric I want to put her on. Yeah, so that's my plans. There's lots of them. I have at least one project that's going to be a multi-year project. Yeah. So, now that I've finished all of my plans, let's talk a little bit about the haul. So, like, technically some of that does go in haul, but I put it in plans because I'm planning on starting that soon. So, now I have haul. Let's go through first fabric and then some of the pictures. And some of this fabric might actually end up with some of those pieces. I just have to decide on it. So one of the things that I found was Jackson Fiber Arts. And Jackson Fiber Arts, I found their fabric and I got a couple of pieces of it. By a couple, I mean like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? So I had the one that I'm using for my Stargazer. And then I went ahead and got actually a number of other ones. And I don't... Oh, it doesn't say what size they are. I don't know what size they are. I would have to actually measure it to figure that out. But I do have a number of different sizes. Or I have at least 2 different sizes. So this is a smaller piece and the other ones are a bit bigger. I think this might be a 9x13. Yeah, I think that's a 9x13. And then everything else should be like fat quarter size, I think. Anyways, so the first one that I have that I just showed is the color Toulouse. And it's a really pretty green. I don't know what I'm gonna put on this, but something is gonna go on it. And like it's a really nice feel for the fabric. So first color, the next color that I got was Helsinki, which is another green, but a slightly different, more variegated green. So that is gorgeous and going to be so much fun to figure out what I want to put on it. I don't know if Olivia would look good on this or if she might look better on like one of the ones that's further down in this one. So Helsinki. The more bluey green one is called Galme. And that's this guy here. Yeah, I think he's showing up more blue on the camera than in real life, but like you can see the blues and greens. Very oceany. I might need to find a mermaid or something to put in there. Something like that. And then the final color that I got is this one called Namur, and it's a purple. It's very light purple, like a lilac color. And it's really pretty, and I like it. Obviously, I bought it. Yeah. So I really like the way that these fabrics are dyed up. They're really gorgeous. Reasonably priced, really reasonably priced, especially when you compare it to like what linen costs. And yeah, I've only stitched on it with the really dark color. And I think these would be slightly more difficult than some of the other fabrics that I've used, but not by much. Like these are, at least in the lighter colors, you can see where they all are. Granted, it is a 32 count, and this is my first time working really with 32 count. So I'm not entirely used to it, but I have enjoyed working with it so far, even if it is really dark. And it's my first time doing it really small. So that is all of my fabric that I've gotten. I did pick up a cross stitch kit. I picked up a Thomas Kincaid one, actually. You can see it here. It's Thomas Kincaid's Beacon of Hope. So I saw that and was like, oh, that's really pretty. I really do like Thomas Kincaid's paintings. So I'm happy to pick up a kit from him. It looks like it's a stamped cross stitch kit. I don't know. I'm assuming we'll have a design in there, but we'll see. I haven't actually ever done anything by Candemar Designs. We'll see how it turns out. But yep, kit that I got. And then I have a number of patterns that I've picked up. So I picked up, are these all separate? Yeah. So I picked up a set of 3 Thomas Kincaid booklets. So by Leisure Arts, there's this one, and then I also picked up the 2 in the back. They're all in one thing right now, and I'm not gonna open it right now. So I did pick up these 3. I'm looking forward to doing these guys. I don't know, like his designs are just very, like there's a reason why they called him the painter of light. He does a really good job with the lighting and like the soft background and very peaceful looking. So I think these will be fun to actually do like as cross stitch. And then the more interesting stuff, right? So the stuff that someone was like, we want to see what you do with mirabilia. So yeah, I did get some mirabilia patterns since then. So I have a number here. Most of the ones that I picked up I think are still in print. I'm not entirely sure. I know one of them isn't, and that one was a surprise because I bought several of these as single off patterns, and then I bought a set of 5, 2 of which aren't mirabilia. I need to look at them a little bit closer. But of that 5, 3 of them were mirabilias, and one of them was kind of a surprise. Didn't expect it. Paid a lot less than I've seen some of the people pay on eBay, but I am very happy with it. So the first one that I picked up was this one. So this is Andromeda. And that is obviously based off of the Greek mythology. The reason why I picked up this one is because I kind of want to edit it just a little bit. So there's a galaxy near us called Andromeda. And I want to put the galaxy in the background. So we are going to keep the foreground like this, but I need to get a really good picture from NASA, which, by the way, if you don't know, photographs are public domain property because they're taken with U.S. government-owned property, and therefore they are property of the people. So if you go onto nasa.gov, like, any of their pictures are, I believe, both copyright or domain free, and you are able to download them. The issue then becomes like really finding where they are. So I need to figure out what picture I want to take for it. So I need to find the picture and then take the picture that I want for the Andromeda galaxy, and then run it through software and put it on the back. That's the goal. But yeah, that was part of the reason why I got her, because I was like, oh yeah, there's that. I really want to add that to it. Then the next one that I got recently, so Stephanie, I'm mentioning you a lot in this video. You showed something on your video, one of your Christmas ones, that I was like, oh, I really like that. And guess what I found on eBay? Yep, I found Christmas Elliot's. So my second Christmas project that I will need to start, I want to start this year. But yeah, gorgeous design, want to do it. So yeah, I found it, and how much? I didn't pay, so like some of the prices, I didn't pay that much for this. I paid more than, say, like a new one that you're getting off of 123 Stitch, but not anything astronomical for this. So I was pretty happy with the price I paid. But yeah, I have it. I'm hopefully going to start it this year, just probably not this month. So that was the second one. And then this one, the person who sold it was really, really kind and actually sent some of the floss that she had along with the pattern that I bought from her. So I bought July's Amethyst fairy because I'm a July baby, and so I was like, yep, need to stitch July. I do think though that I'm gonna try and play with this one. So I like the style. I don't necessarily like the colors. Amethyst, I think, is one of July's stones, but ruby is also. And I actually want to convert it so that it is ruby instead of amethyst. So that is one, although I'm very thankful that she included the floss. I don't know that I'm actually going to use any of this floss with this particular pattern. I think I'm going to end up doing some color conversions and changing it up. So yeah, that was this. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, apparently I talked enough that the fully charged battery went out on me while I was talking. Oops. So let's see, I think I was on this. Yep, planning and color converting it. Thank you to the seller who included the floss with it. That was really, really sweet. And then the final thing that I had was a lot of mirabilias happened to go up on eBay, and I was like, for a very low price. And I was like, yep, I will take those right now. So immediately snagged those guys up. Didn't really look at what was in there. And found that there were 3 fairies plus a couple of other things which I need to go through that weren't mirabilia patterns. But let me show you what I did get. So the first one that I got was this one. And that's that. I don't know how well it's showing up, but so the first one I have is Titiana, Queen of the Fairies. Yeah, she's pretty. I will eventually start her. I feel like that's with like most of the Nora Corbett mirabilia patterns. I'm like, oh, that's pretty. I'll eventually do that. If it's not like a, oh, that's pretty, let me do this right now kind of thing. And then this one I'm probably gonna actually keep the colors because I like the colors. It's really pretty. The next one that I was included in there was this one, which is, let me see what it is. Midsummer Night Fairy. So, yeah, she's gorgeous. Going to do her too. And then the last one, she doesn't have a case. But I was very surprised when I opened it up because I did not pay attention. And it is actually this. So yeah, I got a fairy flora. And the pattern is like, you can tell that it's used, right? So there's like little spots where someone either was highlighting as they were completing it, or something got on it. And yeah, it's not perfect, but it is the pattern, and it doesn't matter if the pattern's a little bit beat up. But yeah. So I had a pretty good haul this time. I have a couple of other things, but I'm not gonna show it here because like this is already long enough as it is. And I have been talking for longer than I was planning on it. Yeah, I've been talking for a while. So if you managed to make it this far, because I have no idea how long this is at this point. It's probably like 2 hours. If you really like long, rambly Flosstube / knitting things, feel free to subscribe. The subscribe button is probably like in that corner somewhere. If you liked it, please do like it. That way other people could possibly find it. If you have any suggestions or comments, feel free to leave them in the area below. I might not get back to them immediately, but I will reply to everything. I'm not the fastest, but as long as it's not like checked off in YouTube, then I don't forget about it. And if I do happen to forget about it, feel free to bug me again, especially if it's something you really, really want to know. If you made it this far, put a fairy. Find a fairy thingy and put it in the comment below. I'm not sure how many people will make it this far or how long it'll take them to get this far. But if you make it this far, feel free to put a fairy below. That way we both know that you made it to the bitter end. I'll plan on doing this in probably about a month again. If you enjoyed watching these things, feel free to go follow some other people. I obviously reference Cross Stitch the Globe multiple times, so feel free to follow them. They are great fun to watch and do crafts with. If you are a little bit more multi-craftorial and enjoy sewing, there's Get to the Stitchery, which I linked in the last video. I'll link it again in this video, just so that you know where it is. Knitting wise, Marlene from, I believe it's Marlene Makes, is really good to watch. Veronika Lindberg from Kudavakika is really good to watch. Good fun. Who else do I watch? Retro Claude. She's both knitting and sewing. Hey, this is Editing Kathy for this video. It's super long. I don't know where the last part of the video went, so we'll do a quick recap here, I think, on the last little bit of what I was gonna say. So Retro Claude, I think, was the other knitting one that I was gonna suggest because she creates great content, and also she deals with disability and is very honest and open about how she interacts with both her craft and that disability and how they affect each other. And she goes through several ideas on like how to make things possible for her, which are helpful for her as well as other people who are disabled, but it's also helpful for like me, who, as far as I know, have no disabilities, but like some of the planning and ideas that she has, because she has to do it, can be really helpful for other people too. And then I guess the final one that I'm gonna kind of call out here is, who was I watching recently? So it's been a little while since I actually made that video, but now I've been watching Needleberry Stitches. She's really good. If you enjoy cross stitch content, so she's my latest binge watch, I guess. So go check her out, and have a great day. I'm sure that this is almost 2 hours long, so if you made it to this point, congratulations. You have watched way more of me talking than most people ever should. Anyways, have a great day, evening, week.